Imagine this. A high school bully, Jake Reynolds, the 6 feet 2 inches, muscle-bound quarterback, used to getting everything he wants. Now, picture his target. Maya Carter, a 17-year-old girl in a wheelchair. Jake thinks he can intimidate her, mocking her disability. But Maya's strength isn't in her legs. It's in her mind, spirit, and the years of unseen training. What happens next will shatter all expectations. Maya doesn't back down. She takes control, and in an instant, the power dynamics flip. The bully becomes the one on the ground. This isn't just a physical fight. It's about resilience, proving that no one should ever be underestimated. Maya shows that disability is not a weakness, it's strength. Her story will change everything you think you know about courage. Before we dive into this powerful moment, don't forget to subscribe. It's quick, easy, and your one click means so much to us. Join this journey of empowerment. Like and share if you believe in standing up for what's right. You're just a useless cripple. The words slice through the chatter of the schoolyard like a knife, leaving a stunned silence in their wake. Jake Reynolds, the 6 feet 2 inches star quarterback with a reputation for crushing opponents on and off the field, loomed over 17-year-old Maya Carter's wheelchair, his shadow swallowing her whole. His varsity jacket, black with neon yellow sleeves, the colors of invincibility at Ridgeview High, brushed against her cheek as he grabbed a fistful of her white hoodie and yanked. The fabric strained against her shoulders, the sound of stitching threatening to give way, echoing louder than the gasps of the students circling them. Maya's wheelchair didn't budge. Behind them, the crowd had frozen, phones raised, some smirking, others wincing but saying nothing. A few whispered, "Jake, come on," but no one stepped forward. The golden hour sun cast long shadows across the brick courtyard, painting the scene in dramatic streaks of light and dark, as if the universe itself was setting the stage. Maya didn't flinch. Her dark braid swayed as she tilted her head up slowly, meeting Jake's sneer with a gaze so steady, so eerily calm, that for a split second his grip faltered. His knuckles whitened around her hoodie, but his smirk flickered just once. "Let go," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake blinked, then barked out a laugh, glancing at his teammates for backup. "Or what? You gonna roll away?" The crowd tittered nervously. One of his friends fake coughed. "Bro, she can't even stand." But Maya's hands, resting on the wheels of her chair, twitched. Her fingers, covered in faint scars and calluses from years of gripping parallel bars, of pushing herself beyond what doctors said was possible, curled into fists. The movement was small, almost invisible, but Jake saw it, and for the first time, the smirk slid off his face. Maya exhaled. She could smell the cheap cologne he'd doused himself in, see the sweat beating at his temple despite the cool autumn air. She noted the way his free hand hovered near his side, unsure whether to shove her or step back. "Last chance," she murmured. The crowd leaned in. Phones adjusted for better angles. Someone whispered, "Oh, let's say." Jake's eyes darted to his friends, then back to her. His pride won. "Make me," he spat, tightening his grip, and that's when Maya moved. Jake's laughter cut through the schoolyard like a knife, his voice dripping with mockery. "Or what? You'll roll away." The words hung in the air as his teammates erupted in cruel laughter, their voices blending into a chorus of humiliation. One particularly loud jock elbowed his friend, pointing at Maya's wheelchair. "Maybe she'll give you a speeding ticket, Jake." Maya's breath remained steady despite the heat rising in her chest. She could feel every pair of eyes on her, some filled with pity, others with morbid curiosity, most just waiting to see how this would play out. Her fingers, resting lightly on her chair's armrests, traced the familiar grooves in the rubber grips. The scars there told a story, years of rehabilitation, of pushing herself beyond what doctors said was possible. A sudden memory flashed through her mind, vivid as yesterday. Flashback, 5 years earlier. The basement gym smelled of sweat and leather, the rhythmic thud of gloves against pads echoing off concrete walls. 12-year-old Maya, her small frame nearly swallowed by the wheelchair, adjusted her oversized boxing gloves with determination. Again, her father rumbled, holding up the focus mitts. His massive frame blocked most of the light from the single bare bulb overhead, casting long shadows across the mat. Maya threw a combination, her wheelchair rocking slightly with the effort. Left jab, right cross. The gloves thumped against the pads. "You're dropping your shoulder," her father corrected, his voice deep but patient. He tapped her elbow with one mitt. "Power comes from here, not just your arms." She nodded, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her glove. On the small TV in the corner, a UFC fight played on mute. A highlight reel showed a fighter in a wheelchair executing a perfect armbar. "Disability ain't weakness, baby girl," her father said, adjusting her stance. His hands, scarred from years of underground fights, were surprisingly gentle as he positioned her arms. "It's camouflage. They'll never see you coming." The memory shifted to late nights spent studying fight tapes, her father breaking down techniques frame by frame. "Wristlock combo," he'd say, pausing the video. "For bullies who grab. They think they're in control until, bam, you reverse it." Present day. Jake's voice yanked her back to reality. "What's the matter? Wheelchair got your tongue." He gave her hoodie another vicious tug, the fabric stretching dangerously. His breath smelled of cheap energy drink and arrogance. Maya felt rather than heard her father's voice in her mind. When they grab, that's when they're most vulnerable. Her fingers twitched almost imperceptibly, the movement hidden by the folds of her hoodie. The scars on her hands, from years of gripping parallel bars, from countless hours of training, seemed to pulse with remembered strength. Jake leaned in closer, his smirk widening. "Maybe we should give you a push, get you moving dash." The crowd's murmurs faded to silence as Maya finally spoke, her voice calm but carrying. "You really should have let go when you had the chance." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Jake's face. His grip on her hoodie loosened just slightly enough. Maya's hands moved like lightning. Time seemed to slow as Maya's hand snapped up, her fingers locking around Jake's wrist with surgical precision. His smirk froze mid-sneer, just long enough for her to twist. Crack! The sound wasn't loud, but in the dead silence of the courtyard, it might as well have been a gunshot. Jake's face went sheet white. His mouth opened in a soundless scream before the pain hit his nerves and his voice came rushing back. What the?" The crowd erupted. Phones shot up, zooming in as Jake, 6'2", 220 pounds of varsity muscle, folded. His knees hit the pavement with a thud, his free hand slapping the ground to catch himself. A girl in the front row shrieked, "Oh my God." Someone else dropped their soda can. Maya didn't blink. She leaned in, her torn hoodie slipping off one shoulder, revealing the corded muscle of her arms. The same arms Jake had mocked minutes ago. Up close, she could see the sweat beading on his forehead, the way his pupils dilated in panic. "Apologize," she whispered, her voice calm as a surgeon's. "Or I break it." Jake's breath came in ragged gasps. His wrist was bent at a sickening angle, her thumb digging into the pressure point just above his palm. He'd never felt pain like this, not on the field, not in any fight. His teammates? Nowhere to be seen. I'm as sore," he choked. "Louder." Maya tightened her grip. "I'm sorry." Jake howled, his voice cracking. A wet spot bloomed on the knee of his jeans. Had he pissed himself? The crowd lost it. Did he just? She made him cry. "Holy shit, Maya." Maya held the lock for 3 more seconds, long enough for the cameras to catch Jake's snotty, tear-streaked face, then released. Jake collapsed onto his side, cradling his wrist like a broken toy. His Letterman jacket was smeared with dirt, his hair matted with sweat. He looked small. Maya smoothed her hoodie, her breathing barely elevated. "Nah," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Just disabled." The courtyard exploded in cheers. Jake's face turned an alarming shade of purple, his jaw clenched so tightly it looked as if it might shatter. The pain coursing through his wrist was unlike anything he had ever felt, sharp, unrelenting, as if Maya's grip had somehow cut straight through the bone. He gasped for breath, trying to twist free, but Maya's hold was absolute. I'm sorry," Jake shouted, his voice cracking in desperation, panic setting in as the crowd of students watched in stunned silence. His pride was in tatters, his carefully constructed image of invincibility crumbling before him. Maya didn't respond, her eyes locked on his, calm and unblinking, her expression a perfect blend of focused intensity and quiet fury. Every second felt like an eternity, but Maya remained unyielding, her wrist lock solid and sure. The crowd's murmurs swirled around them like a whirlwind, but Maya couldn't hear it. Not really. All she could hear was the echo of her father's voice from that long-ago time, guiding her through the UFC fight highlights on TV, telling her that strength wasn't just physical. Strength was something deeper, something that came from understanding how to fight not just with your body, but with your mind and spirit. Jake's voice came again, thin and shaky. "I'm sorry, okay? Just let go, please." His eyes were wide now, the cocky jock facade completely gone. In its place was the raw, unfiltered terror of someone who had underestimated the very person they had spent so long ridiculing. Jake's knees buckled, his body finally giving way to the pain, but Maya didn't ease up. Not yet. She twisted his wrist again, just enough to remind him who was in control. For a split second, he cried out again, the sound more animal than human. The crowd was still, as if they were waiting for the next move, the next revelation. The tension in the air was so thick, it could have been cut with a knife. Then, with a final twist of her wrist, Maya released him. The silence was deafening at first, a moment suspended in time. Then, as if someone had released the floodgates, the crowd erupted. A single clap rang out from the back, followed by another, and another, until the entire schoolyard was alive with cheers and shouts. "Damn! M.A.Y.!" someone yelled, and the roar of approval was deafening, filling the space with energy. Maya sat back, her expression a mixture of satisfaction and quiet pride. She had done it. She had stood up for herself in the most powerful way she could, by showing Jake that his arrogance and cruelty meant nothing against her resolve. Jake scrambled away, clutching his wrist to his chest like it might somehow shield him from the onslaught of embarrassment that was coming for him. His face was flushed with rage, but there was fear in his eyes now, a deep and abiding fear of someone he had clearly underestimated. "You're insane," he spat, his voice cracking under the weight of his humiliation. Maya's gaze softened just slightly. She ran a hand over her hoodie, smoothing the fabric that had been torn in the scuffle. Her expression never wavered. "Nah, just disabled," she said, her voice calm and steady. It was the simplest of statements, but it carried the weight of everything she had fought for. The crowd began to buzz with more excitement, the moment immortalized in their phones as the video of Jake's defeat quickly went viral. Maya had shown the world that disability was not a weakness, but a strength, and she was ready to teach others how to harness that power too. By 3 p.m., the video was everywhere. Within hours, it had spread like wildfire across social media. The image of Jake crumpling to his knees, his face contorted in pain, and Maya's serene, unflinching expression burned into the minds of millions. The hashtag started trending. Hashtag Maya the Warrior, hashtag Just Disabled, and hashtag Silent Strength were all over Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The video wasn't just a viral sensation, it was a statement. People were shocked. They were inspired. And they were outraged by how easily Jake had gotten away with bullying for so long, only to be taken down by someone he had dismissed as weak. At first, Jake tried to deny it. He posted a few half-hearted attempts at damage control, trying to convince people that Maya had provoked him or that the whole thing was a fluke. But the evidence was irrefutable. The video showed the truth in stark, unflattering detail. Jake, the quarterback, the untouchable jock, had been reduced to a crumpled heap of pride and arrogance. By the end of the day, his reputation was shattered. Jake's parents were furious. They tried to push for the situation to be swept under the rug, but the school couldn't ignore the public outcry. By the end of the week, Jake was pulled from the school and transferred to a new one. Word spread quickly. He wasn't welcome in this town anymore. The kids who had once idolized him now saw him for what he was, a bully too fragile to handle being called out. The quiet girl in the wheelchair had taken him down in front of everyone, and his ego could never recover from it. Meanwhile, Maya's life had irrevocably changed. She wasn't just a victim anymore. She wasn't the girl who sat in the corner, tried to avoid the jabs and whispers. No, now she was a force. Her story had inspired people everywhere, and Maya had no intention of letting that momentum go to waste. A few months later, she started something new. The idea had been in her mind since the incident, but now it had a purpose. She began teaching self-defense to other disabled teens, empowering them to stand up for themselves in any situation. Maya was a natural teacher, patient, strong, and understanding. Her classes weren't just about physical techniques. They were about mental toughness, resilience, and the power of knowing you can protect yourself. Word of her classes spread, and soon, the gym was filled with teens who had once felt powerless, now learning to harness their inner strength. By graduation, Maya was a leader in her community, and her self-defense program had expanded beyond her high school. She was invited to speak at conferences, to teach workshops, to spread the message that disability wasn't a limitation. It was a different kind of power. The final text flashed on the screen: "Never underestimate the quiet ones." It wasn't just a tagline, it was a reminder. A reminder that those who seem least likely to strike back often have the most formidable strength within them. Maya had proven that. And in doing so, she had rewritten the narrative for herself and for so many others. If you found Maya's story inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Your support helps us shine a light on real stories of strength and resilience. Drop a comment below if you want to see more content like this, and remember, never underestimate the quiet ones. See you in the next video.